been saying for a while I would like talk about books, but I never got around to it. So I figured the best thing to do would just be like talk about all the books I read this year and like rank them or some shit. I was gonna do a tier list, but I was like, fuck that. I'm gonna just get it straight into it and talk about the Song of Ice and Fire books. The Song of Ice and Fire books. Nah, you know how obsessed with this shit I am, right? Like, when I was younger, I used to go into Discords and role play a Song of Ice and Fire characters. Like, I'm not talking about role play them when I was like 13, 14. I used to do that shit when I was 16, 17. So if you want to find me and like find the shit I was doing in a Song of Ice and Fire Discord servers, you just need to like track down some of them. Maybe you'll see me. But these books are so good. Long story short, the plot's kind of complicated, but it's like a bunch of different royal families kind of scheming for the Iron Throne, and whoever holds the Iron Throne controls like the Seven Kingdoms. And at the same time, in the north, there's like White Walkers trying to come over this like giant fucking ice wall, which is like, they're like zombies basically. It's really complicated. Now, I love these books. They're obviously like adult books, and actually the first adult books I ever read, which is kind of like funny because they have so much like shit in them, like really bad like sexual assault and like violence and gore and all this crap. So it's funny, they were the first books I read, like adult books, but that's because I actually watched Game of Thrones, because Game of Thrones, that's like the show these books are like, the show's based off the books, right? I watched that shit when I was like 12 and 13. I probably shouldn't have been, but I did. And I loved it so much that my fucking dad got me the first book. And I did struggle with it. I'm gonna start yapping about the history. I need to just rank it. Now, all these books, they're kind of series on a whole is like S tier. I don't know if I would call it like 10 out of 10, but definitely my favorite fantasy books. And it doesn't matter what year it is, I will be rereading this shit. The only problem is George R.R. Martin. Also, sorry if I'm kind of like rambling and go off topic. I've never talked about books to you before, but George R.R. Martin, right, is like the Playboy Cardi of books. This motherfucker never drops. This guy never drops a book. It's been 13 years since the last A Song of Ice and Fire book. So, but in saying that, like, and we don't know if that shit's ever coming. The Winds of Winter is the next book. In saying that, I would recommend this book. At least try like the first one. It's not too in-depth. It is really big, as you can see. The writing's really fucking small. The world building, really good. I've seen people talk about how they have issues with the prose, like the writing, which I can kind of see. Some of it's not as smooth as it could be. I think George R. Martin's like strong point is really his world building, right? So I would recommend checking out that first book. I would rate the first Game of Thrones book maybe like an 7.869 out of 10 or some shit. Clash of Kings is the second book. I really like this. The plot doesn't move forward too much, and there's not really like heavy world building in the second book. It's more like just like the first battles of the war. The War of the Five Kings is like the war in the book, kind of like that begins in the second book. I would rate the second book a maybe like 8.12. Now, when shit starts ramping up, though, is A Storm of Swords, which is the third book. This is one of the best fantasy books ever fucking written. I think it's mostly like agreed among like a lot of fantasy readers. This is one of just the best fantasy books. And look how fucking small the writing is and how thin the pages is. This shit is like, the pages are as thin as the Bible. Look at that shit. And you can see I have a bookmark in it because low-key I was like rereading this in between all the other books I was reading because I love it so much. But the world building in this shit just ramps up so much. Everything is so much more in depth. I think like there's an average of a character death like every fucking chapter or some shit. The plot just moves forward so much. And I think most people who've read these books can agree. It's like he's never been able to top this book, really. So this is just a solid 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. Like, you need to read the first two books to get to this shit at least. It is so fucking good. And since it's so, like, detailed, since these books are so in-depth, I can reread them like 3 times. I'm on the 3rd fucking reread of this shit. I can reread it 3 times and still notice new things in it because of how detailed it is, right? But like everyone knows A Song of Ice and Fire, you know, everyone knows that shit if you read fantasy. The next books, fucking, I need to like get this shit off the ground. Sorry, I have so many books. I had to put it down here. The next book, A Feast for Crows. People didn't like this as much. I think like it was still really good, but it had a more mixed reception because firstly, the plot doesn't really move forward that much. It's a lot of just like traveling and world building. Plot doesn't go forward. Plus the POV characters, like the point of view characters, there's like a shit ton. There's like 30 and there's like over 2,000 characters, named characters in like the whole fucking book. And even like side characters have really like in-depth fucking stories, right? But A Feast for Crows, it was kind of like the main point of view characters that everyone loved in the first 3 books don't really appear in this book, right? Because I think he was writing a whole book and kind of split it into half, so this is technically was meant to be the half of like one book, but it's just one book. And so yeah, I really like this. I know I had like mixed reception, but I really liked it. I probably would rate it a maybe 7.8. I really love the more like slow paced traveling, and I did like the other point of views, even though people didn't like that as much. The latest book in the series, which came out 13 fucking years ago, is A Dance with Dragons. A Dance with Dragons. You know, this can get confusing because one of the wars, or one of the famous wars in the book like world, is the Dance with the Dragons, I think, and then he named the book A Dance with Dragons. So this was technically like the second half of the other book. The point of view characters that like everyone loved in the first 3 did return in this, but still it's more slow paced. He puts a lot of like more effort into like world building and shit, I think, in that. So I would rate that maybe like, I would rate that an 8.32. I kind of like that shit. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if George Martin drops the next book before Playboi Carti drops his fucking album at this point. If Playboi Carti drops his album in like 24 hours, that's not gonna age well. My phone fell. But yeah, if that happens, that's not gonna age well and I'm gonna look kind of retarded, but that's just my thoughts on that. I should talk about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms as well. I'm sorry, this has all been in like the same book series, but I just read that shit so much. Let me reposition this. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is kind of like a prequel to everything. It's set maybe like 100 years before all the Game of Thrones shit. You know, surprisingly, there's not one rape in here. There's not one fucking rape in here. That's kind of a weird thing to say, but it's like in all the other books. It's actually really like lighthearted, you know? I would say maybe even a child could read this shit. Like, it's really simple. There's still good world building, but just like the prose is much more simple. It's kind of happier, I guess. I mean, actually, I don't know if a kid could read it because there is someone getting his head smashed in and like 2 dead people in a fucking cage hanging by a tree. So I don't know about that, but it's still a really good book. I don't really know if you would need to read the other books to understand what's going on in here. And funny thing as well, they're making a TV show of this shit. They made a TV show that's coming out soon. I think there's a trailer for that. But yeah, I love that book so much. And it smelled really fucking good. That's another thing. I don't know if you had this shit, but like whenever I get books, I need to like sniff the shit out of that. I don't know why. It's kind of strange, but I need to do it. So yeah, that was like a good smelling book. I would rate that, you know, honestly, I would rate that a 9.34. 8768, 9.438768, yeah, something like that. It was super good. I got through this in like 2 days, and there was one time, or 2-3 days, and there was one time when I was really sick. Oh no, I wasn't sick. I fractured my ankle, and I read that, and it was really cool. Fucking hell. Okay, the next one, the next one in the series I read this year. Fire and Blood. It's this is just the whole A Song of Ice and Fire book review fucking video at this point. I love this book so much. It's different to the other books in that it's like a history book. It reads like a history book, like you're reading a whole fucking Wikipedia page, but it's super nice. This is another thing that had mixed reception, so I don't know if you would like that. Obviously, I would recommend actually, I was gonna say I would recommend reading that after the main series, but I've seen people read that without ever reading the main series. And I know the TV show, The House of the Dragon, which I've only watched like the first season of. I don't know if you heard of that. It's really popular. It's just like based off that book, and the book had mixed reception. I've seen people say they don't like it because it doesn't follow like the traditional kind of style of a normal book, because it's like a history book. But I really fucking love that. Like, I love that book so much. I don't understand how it had mixed reception, right? But in saying that, fuck me. Let's move on to some other books. And I probably should talk next about the Words of Radiance. Now look at this shit. This shit is 2 fucking books, but this is 1 book. This is part 1, part 2. So it's actually 1 book, but it's so fucking big. The dude, Brandon Sanderson, yeah, he split it into 2 books. Now, I have a bone to pick with this, right? So Words of Radiance is the 2nd book in the Stormlight Archive series, which is just a fantasy thing about, it's like a group of people start unlocking these like ancient powers, and they have to like save the world from some like great calamity, which is like in the book A Giant Storm, kind of like just traditional epic fantasy shit, but it's really popular now. And I think the next book is coming out this year or next year or something, and it is so popular. People love it. People go on about how good it is, and Brandon Sanderson's like the shit now. He's kind of like, if George R. Martin is the Playboy Cardi of books, Brandon Sanderson would be like not the net spend, maybe like probably not the net spend. Net spend is like the direct reincarnation of Michael Jackson in rap, right? My point is, Brandon Sanderson he's really popular, but I actually don't like his books. And this is funny considering I bought all the Stormlight Archive books. That was because I was reading The Way of Kings, the first one, which was really huge, like 400,000 words. And I liked one of the characters in it, kind of, and like I thought it was kind of cool. All the fights seemed like anime-like fights, not that I've watched anime. So I bought all the other books, but then I got to like the 2nd book and I was reading it and I realized, wow, this world just seems fucking dead. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it seems so dead, and it seems as if his characters are like, he's just writing down the personalities and characters of the characters and then forcing them to act in a certain way. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, you know, with a lot of books, the characters seem really real and kind of seem like they're doing their own shit. But with Stormlight Archive, I kind of felt like he was forcing the characters to do shit. I don't know if that makes sense. So, like, I guess you may like this. I guess also it's probably like an adult book. That's the other issue I have with it. Everyone was saying it was an adult book when I was looking at recommendations. Everyone was saying it was an adult book, but I read it and it kind of seemed like a young adult book. The main characters, one of them is like a 16-year-old girl, but besides that, the other main characters are like my age or older than me. They're like in their 20s, yet they act like fucking 14-year-olds. It's so annoying, bro. They act like 14-year-olds and like 13-year-olds. They're so fucking immature, even though they're like in their 20s. And I don't know if that's realistic, because I'm isolated and just stay in my room all day, so I don't know if 20-year-olds are actually that childish, but I was getting the vibe that it should be a young adult book, and I don't like that everyone was saying it was an adult book, because I really don't think it is. And I'm not saying you have to have a bunch of fucking sexual assault and gory stuff like Game of Thrones to be considered an adult book. You definitely don't. But to me, it just seemed very, very childish. So I actually would not recommend the Stormlight Archive, even though I see everyone loves it. You know, the Words of Radiance was like on Goodreads.com, which is kind of like what, like the Spotify for books or some shit. Words of Radiance, the 2nd book, was like one of the highest rated books, not just fantasy books, one of the highest rated books on the whole website. And yeah, I don't agree with it. He can spend like a whole page describing a plant or describing a drawing. Now, a lot of authors can make that very entertaining, but I just wasn't seeing it. So, I didn't read the first book this year. I only read the second book this year, but I'm gonna stop yapping and probably rate it like 4.3.2. Like, it's not that good, bro. It's not that good. Let me move on to Kill a Mockingbird. You know, the classic To Kill a Mockingbird. A lot of us read that in school. I read that in school with my class, you know, but I wasn't paying attention to it. I was probably just at the back of the class, like stoned as fuck, or like scrolling on TikTok or some shit. But I read that because I was thinking, damn, I've just been reading the same fantasy books for like 2-3 years at this point. So I wanted to branch out. And I was like talking to my parents about that, and then my mom was like, you should read To Kill a Mockingbird, because she loves To Kill a Mockingbird for some fucking reason. So I was like, you know what? I read it in school, but like I never paid attention to it. So I was like, you know, I'll give it a go. I'll read To Kill a Mockingbird. It's alright. I got through it in like a week. It's not amazing. Like, it's not groundbreaking. Like, I think most of us could write a better book than To Kill a Mockingbird. Let's be real here. But it's alright. It's kind of mid. Sorry. I would rate it like 5.3. It's better than Stormlight Archive. Fuck that. Fuck those books, bro. But no, it's kind of mid. Like, you know, the story, it's about like some black guy who gets falsely accused of like raping a white girl and whatever. And I guess the whole message is like, you should treat people based on their character and not their race. You know, nice message, nice characters. Characterization wasn't insane. nothing groundbreaking or anything. But you know, it was good. The next book is Dracula. I read that a couple months ago. Really good. Actually, first ever horror book I've ever read. I've never read a horror book before this. I try to read Stephen King books, but I didn't like Stephen King, but that's a conversation for a whole other day. I would rate Dracula a straight 8. It doesn't even need any more like decimal numbers after that. Oh fuck. It's really, really good. It's written of course it's about Dracula. We all know Dracula, except there was nothing cheesy about it at all. Because, you know, Dracula's kind of cheesy, like, blah, 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 I'm gonna suck your blood and whatever. But, like, the book actually wasn't like that. It was really fucking serious. Like, actual kind of scary. And I was reading, it came out in, like, the 1800s, I think. And I was reading it had mixed reception when it came out, and the mixed reception when it came out was because it was too scary or some shit. Like, people didn't like it back in the 1800s. Fun fact as well, I was reading more about it, and like, apparently it didn't even sell much when it came out. Like, it hardly sold at all. It only sold like many years later. I think maybe even after Bram Stoker, who made it, I think died. So really good. Told in the perspective of like, or written in the perspective of like journal entries, which is really unique. I've never seen that before, I don't think. So it was really good. Characterization, not that good. The main thing that like carries it is the plot, right? Because you want to keep reading it. You like can't put that shit down. This book's also really small. Dracula is a fucking Chad. He's like the original Sigma male, okay? Let's talk about that. Dracula, original Sigma male. That motherfucker has 3 wives, bro. 3 wives. And they can like transform into dust, and Dracula can like run up walls and stuff. It's actually really scary. And it kind of made me, it was kind of like really realistic, as it kind of made you think about what would happen if vampires were like real. And I know, talking about vampires being real, Bram Stoker talked about how Dracula was like real events and whatever, and he just changed the name and shit. So that guy was really going into the act of like making Dracula seem real, and he researched it a bunch. All the places in Dracula you can like go to in the real world, they're all real places. He put lots and lots of effort into it. I was looking I was looking up more Bram Stoker books, and it seems nothing he wrote really topped Dracula. That was like his, what was the word, magnus opus or whatever the fuck that word is. But you know, I need to stop swearing. I'm swearing way too much. Anyways, let me just go to a kid's book I read. Another one by George R. R. Martin, The Ice Dragon. That's a straight, like, 6. It's more than the Stormlight Archive, even though it's a kid book. I read that, like, 20 minutes on the train. Really simple. I don't really care about kids' books that much. I read one other, which I'll talk about. I just read it because I was interested in George R. R. Martin. Some people also theorize that this book is a part of the A Song of Ice and Fire world, although I know George Martin denied that. The other children book wait, no, I need to rank that. Wait, I did rank that. Didn't I give it a 6? Yeah. The next book, the next kid one is Tales of Brave Adventure by Enid Blyton. I read Enid Blyton books. Is that a woman? I think that's a woman, right? I'm not sure. I read her, I'm gonna say her books when I was a kid, and I had them read to me a lot. I really loved them. This book is a kid's book. I don't know why the fuck you would read it. I was just reading it because I was like bored. And I like Robin Hood. It had Robin Hood in it. I fuck with Robin Hood heavy. That's a solid like 5, a solid 5. It had Robin Hood and like stuff about Arthur and like Excalibur and like all that stuff, you know, all the classic medieval tales. I think, let me go next to the Farseer Trilogy. The Farseer Trilogy, which is, I found this book when I was looking for more fantasy books that had good characterization, because I really love real characters and characterization, I guess, because I'm so isolated that I try to compensate for my lack of social interactivity by reading books and like trying to pretend the book characters are real. But Assassin's Apprentice, the first book in the Farseer Trilogy, firstly the names are boring as hell. Like Assassin's Apprentice, Royal Assassin, oh my god, this cover's so hard. Assassin's Quest, boring as hell and misleading titles because there's not much assassination in it. I think in the whole book there's like fucking 2 assassinations or something. There's not much, but it's really good. Oh yeah, George R. R. Martin. I'm so obsessed with that guy. He also recommended this. It's good. It's light. If you want to get into fantasy books or just start reading, I could recommend this because there's nothing heavy about it at all. Nothing too adultish, but at the same time, I wouldn't say it's like a kid's book or anything. Maybe like a young adult book. Some political intrigue, good characters. In this whole series, which what's the series called? Oh, Realm of the Elderlings. Realm of the Elderlings is like the whole series the books are in, and then within the Realm of the Elderlings there's like several trilogies, and then I'm pretty sure at the end every one of the trilogies like comes together like the Avengers or some shit. I don't know if that happens because I've not read them, but they're good. Assassin's Apprentice, straight 6.7. Royal Assassin, you know, also I thought this cover was boring as hell, so I paid more money to get the original cover from the 90s. This came out in the 90s. Isn't that hard as hell, bro? Anyways, Royal Assassin, this is my favorite book of the series. Solid 7.1. It's just, yeah, there's not much assassination in it. It's just kind of like, once again, epic fantasy. They have to deal with like some threat that's threatening their whole kind of region, which is in this case is like the Red Ship Raiders, which are like kind of Vikings that have kind of supernatural like powers. And the next book, or the final book in the Farseer Trilogy, Assassin's Quest. Now I will rate this a solid 5.9. I actually didn't like it as much as the other books. Actually, you know what? I liked the first half more than any of the other books because I saw Robin Hobb, the woman who made it, I think that's her pen name, she really leveled up her writing in the last book. I just thought towards the end it kind of like dragged a little, but she did come up with really good characters in it, and I've heard all the other Realm of the Elderlings books have really good characterization, so I definitely will get around to that. I'm not in a huge rush. I was really like, I guess kind of connected to the characters, but after I stopped reading the books, it kind of faded a little. Like I wasn't like really looking forward to reading the other books, but I definitely will. Yeah, Assassin's Quest, what did I give that? I don't remember. 5.9 or some shit. A Gentleman in Moscow, that's another book I read. Basically, long story short, it's just after like some, I don't know history, but after like that revolution in Russia where the fucking communists or some shit took over, like this guy's put on house arrest, but like in a hotel, right? So he used to stay in a hotel. So the whole book, A Gentleman in Moscow, takes place in a hotel. And the whole, like, the plot seems really boring, but it's actually a really good book. Very light-hearted compared to, like, Game of Thrones. It's really, like, it's kind of good. There is some kind of, like, I guess, depressing stuff in it. But in the end, it's a light-hearted book. There's nothing too dark about it. Really easy to read. Lots of food descriptions. There's really detailed food descriptions. Because, like, he's locked in a hotel. What's the guy gonna do except eat food all day? You know, right? And alcohol descriptions as well. Lots of alcohol. I did think... Once again, I did think it dragged a little towards the end, but I would recommend this book. I wasn't amazed with it. It was nothing groundbreaking. I would give it solid 6.8. Better than Stormlight Archive. Everything's better than the Stormlight Archive. I have so much beef with that book. Oh, I should talk about this book. John Irving, A Cider House Rules. Both my parents recommended this guy to me, John Irving. This was the first book I read of him. Super, super, super good. So good. I was reading this book. It's like a guy who grows up in an orphanage and then he gets out of it and starts working at like a cider house or like a cider farm or something. And then he falls in love with another guy's girlfriend and whatever. It's a whole thing. But, you know, he is so good at coming up with like extremely specific scenarios and plots and just linking it all together and bringing all the characters together. As I was reading it, I was like, how did this guy come up with this shit? I was thinking like, this guy's actually low-key a genius. The only problem I have with it is similar to the Stormlight Archive, and I feel that John Irving is forcing his characters to get across his like opinions and ideologies, normally like political ideologies. A big theme in this book is like abortion, and I don't know if what I'm saying will make sense because I'm not really good at putting my thoughts into words. I feel like the difference is you have George R.R. Martin, he'll have an issue, for example, like immigration. In A Song of Ice and Fire, there's like an immigration crisis, and he explains it from like the point of view of both sides, the people protecting the border, the giant fucking ice wall, and the people trying to come over the border. So you can kind of empathize or sympathize, I don't know. You can kind of see the point of view of each side, and you're like, you don't know who to support because technically each side is right and each side has their reasons. You can, like, both sides are good, both sides are bad. You know what I mean? There's no, like, there's no, like, he's good, that guy's fucking evil. But I feel the differences with John Irving is like the people who support his ideologies are all the good guys. They're the nice people. And the people who you can tell what his ideologies are, right? And his opinions. The people who don't support his opinions are the bad guys, and they're the weird people who are like obviously fucking retarded, right? And like George R.R. Martin never really does that shit, but John Irving does that. So despite that, he's like a really, really good writer. Really easy to read, although there are lots of themes in his books about like rape and like I just thought it was excessive. Like the touching, like, you know, I just thought it was kind of strange. I don't know. But the other book I read of John Irving was The Hotel New Hampshire, which once again my parents recommended. I love this. Better characterization than The Cider House Rules. The Cider House Rules, his strong point was really like the very specific entertaining scenarios he could come up with, but the characters weren't strong. In The Hotel New Hampshire, which is about a family who kind of starts a hotel and then they have to move to Austria and then do like another hotel. Rape is a very big theme in this book. I promise I did not know that, okay? I did not know that. I'm not like trying to read books with a bunch of rape in them, okay? I didn't know that. But his characterization in this is much better because it follows a family and the characters, each characters of the family seem really, really real. I guess, wait, did I rank Cider House Rules? I would rank that a solid 7.8. The Hotel New Hampshire made me decide that I don't want to read any more of this guy's books. Although the scenarios were good and the characters were really, really real, and it was entertaining. Firstly, it dragged a little. I didn't find it as entertaining as the Cider House Rules. And yeah, I don't like, there's too much fucking sexual assault in that, okay? It's just weird. Like, it's just excessive. I really thought it was excessive and weird. And I understand he's probably trying to send like a message about that stuff, but I didn't like it. Like, a bit of it's fine if it somehow carries the plot forward or has to do with the world building. For example, people complain in A Song of Ice and Fire there's lots of violence and sexual assault and whatever, but it's about war. It's set during wartime. In fact, there's probably less in the books than there is during actual war. John Irving, I thought just, I didn't like it. That's just my subjective opinion. I didn't really fuck with that. The other book I read, where is this shit? Oh, Let the Right One In. Let the Right One In is another vampire book. I think I read that after Dracula because I liked the whole vampire thing. This is a, how old is he? Maybe like 12-year-old boy falls in love with a girl, except the girl turns out to be a 200-year-old vampire in a girl's body. Now, this is like really popular. I think there's several movies from it that I've not watched. It's really popular in like, Scandinavian countries, I think, because I think it was actually originally written by a Swedish guy and then translated into English. It's a good book. There is lots of gore and there's also weird like sexual stuff in it. So if you're, it's not for the faint of heart, I think is the saying. And honestly, it was good, but I wasn't amazed by it. I wouldn't reread it. A lot of these books I would probably reread. I wouldn't reread that. I would rate it 6.1. Yeah, a lot of it there was like really disgusting stuff in it, which I don't want to talk about here because I'll probably get this shit taken down. But yeah, 6.1. Wasn't amazed by it, but it's a decent book. It's really popular. So like, I guess I would recommend it. It's really light to read, very simple. Characterization, not that good once again. Similar to Dracula, the plot carries it. Graustark, is this the last book I have? I think, oh, actually, no, I need to talk about some other books, but Graustark, this shit's big as hell, written in the 1800s. It's like a love story where, classic thing, an American falls in love with like a foreign girl, and then the foreign girl goes away, and then the American has to go with his friend and track her down, and they get caught up in this whole plot about like kidnapping and like murders and shit, and the American saves the day and like marries the princess or whatever. Classic shit. Really fucking like, really simple, characterization not good, plot alright, but like nothing amazing. Everything about the book is just mid, but it's all mid, but at the same time, it's lighthearted and nice. And actually, you've probably maybe not heard of that because it's really obscure. Because the only way I heard about this book, right, Graustark, there's actually 3. It's a trilogy. I was looking ages ago for movies on IMDb, and I saw there was a movie called Truxton King, which is about some boy who was like a king of the country in the book, which is Graustark, right? Yeah. That's the made up country. The movie Truxton King was about a boy who was like king of that country, and it was like a lost film from ages ago. So I was like, that's an interesting film, but I can't watch it because it's like a lost film. It was in black and white, so no one's ever seen it. And then I saw that was the book in the series, so I was like, that looks interesting. I'll get the first book from the trilogy, right? I'm just yapping, I hope this makes sense. I was like, I'll get the first book from the trilogy and read it. So it was really, really like, no one knows about this book. I don't think I'm gonna read the Truxton King or the other books in the trilogy. It's not worth it. There's nothing special about it at all. It's really mid. It's really like nice, I guess. It's nice. It's like if it's a summer day and you want a nice romantic book. The love's really shallow in it. Of course, they fall in love based on appearances. They meet on a fucking train and, oh my god, that girl's so attractive. That man's so attractive. They both fall in love. It's nothing deeper than that. It's just like they're not even in love. They're fucking lusting after each other. Like, I need a book with like real love. What book out of all these has real love? maybe like George R.R. Martin, I guess. I mean, there's a lot of forced marriages in that. Let the Right One In, Good Love. I mean, actually, no, not Good Love, not Good Love. Very, very shallow once again, but they're children, so I can't really. Actually, Stormlight Archive. Nope, shit. That's a shit book. So those are all the physical books I have, but I did read a couple PDFs as well. Wait, no. Advanced Lucid Dreaming Supplements. Holy fuck, I completely forgot about that. Let me talk about that. This book about lucid dreaming supplements, I would rank that a solid 8. Now that's good. I've never really taken supplements for lucid dreaming, but I was just reading it because I was curious, and it's kind of a book for people who are already lucid dreamers, and it's kind of there to level up your lucid dreaming and make you an advanced lucid dreamer, right? Really good. It lists a lot of supplements that anyone can get and kind of gives you all the side effects and the right protocol to use them to get a lot of lucid dreams. Although in the book it did mention galantamine, which I've talked about before, which is an Alzheimer's medication for increasing your lucid dreams. I can't get that in Australia, and like a lot of places that is prescription only, so I don't know why he mentioned it. But I would recommend this if you're a lucid dreamer and you want to have a look at like supplements to level up your lucid dreams. Not only level up your lucid dreams, but also increase like dream control. That's another thing. So I'd rate that around a 5. Like, I know I've talked about how you shouldn't use supplements for lucid dreaming because there's no need for it, but I think this book is good because a lot of the supplements aren't really like too risky to use. He does mention like things that increase serotonin and dopamine, which you need to be careful about. Obviously do your own research, but if you're just curious about what supplements could be used, like I highlighted a bunch of shit and took a bunch of notes on it. If you're curious about what supplements could be used, that's a good book. Now, I've been talking about this for ages. I was reading Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung. I never finished that. I don't recommend it. I find it boring as hell. Now, another PDF. I was gonna talk about PDFs. Fuck, I'm stuttering. I was gonna talk about PDFs I read. One of them was Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. I read that this year, which is like a manifestation law of attraction book. Really good. He kind of tries to explain the law of attraction and manifestation in like a logical way, right? A lot of people are just going, oh, your thoughts, you just think good things and all attract good things, and right, which low-key I kind of believe, and I made a video about that was inspired by Feeling is the Secret. I made it ages ago. Don't watch it. It's kind of arse, and I was shit at speaking, right? Like I'm shit at speaking now because I've been yapping for fucking ages and my throat is dry. But Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. If you were interested in law of attraction, manifestation, read that. I won't say any more because a lot of people, I don't know if that's you may be like, there's no proof to that. It's just some new age hippie shit. But no, read that. I also read, The Secret of Awareness, I think it is. The Secret of Awareness was another one by Neville Goddard. Similar thing, but different. Really good. Neville Goddard is such a good writer on law of attraction shit. He does not waste any words. He just gets straight to the fucking point, tells you exactly what to do. What else did I read? I read, The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, which is like a self-help book. Not really a law of attraction book. Kind of like a book on changing your mindset to make more money. And if you can look past the constant fucking advertising that guy is doing, I think Harvey Ecker wrote it. If you can look past the constant advertising of his fucking seminar he's doing in the book, it's really, really good for helping you change your mindset. I've read that maybe 2-3 times. I recommended it to my parents as well, but they don't really care about that shit. The last book I really need to talk about, even though I haven't finished it and I'm reading it now, is Lonesome Dove. You can see I'm kind of nearly finished it. It's really big, lots of words. It's a Western. So good, bro. So fucking good. One of the best books I have like ever read. One of the best books I've ever read. The characters feel so fucking real. Every time I open this book, it just looks like I'm looking into the real lives of people. It's so nice. A lot of it in the second half does get really gory. I mean, not gory, but kind of dark and a little disturbing. I would say even better characterization than A Song of Ice and Fire. And even if the ending is shit, because you know, with a lot of books, great beginning, great middle, but the ending kind of ruins the whole thing. I don't give a fuck, bro. If the ending was complete arse, it would still be a great book. Still be a great book because it's just so good. Read Lonesome Dove. It's really big, but so worth it. I never want it to end. Just read it. Need I say anything else about that? Nope, I don't. But I don't know if you're still listening to me. Maybe I should tell you like some secret code to write down if you're still listening to me yap, because I highly doubt anyone is still here. But in saying that, just like the video, leave me a mean comment, unsubscribe from me, never join the Discord ever, don't do that. Tell me what books you read this year, if you read any. Farewell, I love you.